What does it mean to master the game of life? Like any game, it requires a fundamental understanding and application of the rules. But living in today's on-demand society is making this nearly impossible as our attention is increasingly being fought over and monetized by others. Will Moore's mission is to help you hit the reset button by providing a new set of game rules based on time-proven universal principles and modern science to gamify your life by making it fun and addictive to replace your habits in the 5 core areas of your life proven to lead to true happiness. Ready, player one?
Hey there.
What's up, Will? How you doing?
Doing good. How are you, sir?
Fabulous. Hey, I learned today that I have to be on my phone as opposed to my laptop, so thank you.
No worries. It's a little bit different doing an IG live. Yeah, they require. You think they would have figured that out by now, but they do require, because I have had this happen with guests before. But so no worries. I got to go through the little habits hierarchy with my butt with Willie G. So yeah, let's get into it, man. So how are you? Thanks for being on the show. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? I know you're a franchise consultant, you're a podcast host, you're a best-selling author, serial entrepreneur. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background, how you got here, and what you're trying to do to change the world?
Yeah, I'd love to be able to join you in changing the world. I grew up in New York, and as most people, you look at your environment, whether you like it or not. You look at your grandparents, your parents, and you said it just the other day, and I hear it from all smart people like you. You are the sum total of your 3 closest friends, 5, your family members, etc. Long story short, I thought I was going to work on Wall Street for Dad's company. Fortunate I was born into a good business. But I learned quickly there are 3 major types of investments. You can invest in a business. You can buy stocks, Wall Street related stuff. Today you got crypto, etc. And, you can do real estate as well. So those were the 3 parts of investment that I grew up with. Grandpa had a supermarket chain that he built. He was a Polish immigrant, didn't even speak English. Another grandfather was a real estate attorney, and Dad was on Wall Street. So here I followed Dad on Wall Street, thought, hey, that's for me. I was bored to tears. I was absolutely bored to tears. And, I loved helping people. I was a people person. Followed another relative who built a tech company before anybody was doing tech. You'd be interested in this, and I think your listeners or viewers as well. He was the first company that took analog phones and made them digital and made a fortune. But like a lot of people, he had this fascination with the restaurant business, the hospitality business. So he called me and said, I heard you're bored on Wall Street. Would you join me building a $1 billion restaurant empire? Well, who would turn that down? I get to go from New York all the way across the country, greener pastures, to Scottsdale, Arizona, Paradise Valley specifically, the Phoenix market, and started in a restaurant franchise of all things. He acquired 4 TGI Fridays restaurants when TGI Fridays was great, and I helped him build them to a $225 million business in about 5 years. Talk about getting my MBA, even though I had an economics degree. I absolutely loved the experience, loved the challenge. I realized quickly and still know to this day that the restaurant business is the hardest thing anybody's ever going to do.
Yep. I'd agree with that. I've been in that world, and I totally agree.
Yeah, but I loved it. There was this excitement. Every day was something different, as opposed to Wall Street doing trades, although that was an incredible career that most people would kill for. The money is there, but it was just boring. There was no challenge. And again, growing up with this family, you had no choice. I mean, Dad worked 6 days a week, and he never had to. And on the 7th day, he'd take me to all my sporting events that I'd play, and soccer and football and whatever. So, but I fell into franchising that way, and I could fill in the blanks in between. But you might have plenty of questions about all that. But I came from a successful family. People always ask, well, Lance, are people born entrepreneurs? Are they born with certain habits and this will and this drive? And as a good buddy of mine that's made a fortune in franchising says, are you born gritty? Like because there's some people that don't want to do the work. And there's nothing wrong with that. Work for somebody. Just collect a paycheck. There's nothing wrong with that if that's good for you. That was never good for me. My dad used to joke, "You were unemployable, kid." And he was right.
Well, let me pause there real quick. So I really like that point, and I want to kind of focus on that for a second, which is like, right, people say, are you born an entrepreneur? How do you, I've got 2 small kids right now. I'm going through this whole nurture versus nature thing. I'm seeing it up close and personal with like how there's certain nature things that are just your kids are born with. Like one of my kids, I've got 3 boys now. One's too small to be able to tell yet. He's only 9 months, but the other 2, 3.5 and 6.5, I'm starting to see like their natural tendencies, right? And so, I mean, I'm not to the point where I can identify which one's an entrepreneur or not yet, but to your point, there's certain things that you got to have in grit and just that natural ability to push through. I do feel like that's something, as an entrepreneur myself and all the entrepreneurs I've interviewed and read about, like that's one of those things you have to have. Now, here's where the nurture part comes in, and how you can, if you don't feel like you naturally have that, well, maybe you haven't found the thing that you really love and are passionate about, because that's what reduces the friction to make that a lot easier, right? So in other words, if you're trying to grind it out and create a business for money only, and you're not really liking what you're doing, you don't like the people you've hired or working with, you're every day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, then, you're not going to make it, no matter how much grit you have. But if you find something where you're like, yes, like this is what I was meant to do, I'm using my passions, my strengths, and you can figure out how to outsource some of your weaknesses, and you're working with good people. Now, granted, not every day is a picnic, as you know. You're going to have really tough days, but that's what makes it easier to push through those and to have that grit, right?
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue, because the reality is, in my life, I gave up things that most people would kill to have, because I wanted to follow, in the old days, people would follow their passion. Now, I think everybody's passion is some sort of freedom, some sort of satisfaction that they're successful and they've reached their goals. And, not everybody can be a billionaire, but not everybody has to be a billionaire. Having a few $1 million, if that's your achievement, through Wall Street or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of ways to make money today. So, for me, I ended up becoming a franchisee myself after I left Uncle Steven and with TGI Fridays, and I owned Wingstop restaurants, which a lot of people listening is like, garlic Parmesan wings, lemon pepper. But I owned a bunch of Wingstops. I was a partner in Krispy Kreme Doughnuts for 2 states. I launched a brand in Vegas where I live, everybody seems to know, called Pink Box Donuts, and I sold out of that. But you'll be happy to know, and I think the viewers and listeners will be happy to know, what I do now is show people the way through business ownership that most people do not even know exists. And the reality is, through franchising, as a franchise broker, my podcast, I have guests on that are successful franchisees that in most cases, everybody that wants to be an astronaut, a lawyer, a teacher, a doctor, a firefighter, nobody wants to be a franchisee or a franchise owner. I think that's changing. Franchising is something that people fall into. Everybody seems to think you have to be a millionaire to own a franchise. And the reality, Will, that's my message today. You don't. I got my son into a small gig that's $28,000 where he's doing medical billing. I got other relatives buying an air conditioning franchise, and it's all about getting to your goal that you've set out for yourself. So I work with some people, Will, for 3 years before they buy a franchise. That's the longest. And what am I doing? I'm instilling those habits, exactly what you would be proud of, instilling those habits so they can save the appropriate amount of money, they can get financing, and I can help them build that bridge from their W-2 job to the business that they didn't necessarily dream of, but it's the result from having the business that they've dreamed of. What is that brainstorming? Walt Disney used to talk about brainstorming and really the dream sequence. That's how some of the best things came about with Disney. But then he had the realist phase, the reality hits, but then also the skeptic phase, right? I get off the phone with somebody, they're so excited. This guy Lance says I can be a franchise owner. What's the first thing they do when they get off the phone? They tell their whole family, and then what does their family say? What, are you nuts? You don't know anything about business. You don't have any money, blah, blah, blah. And that's, again, where mindset comes in, right?
So I love this. What I'm hearing is right. I mean, you've done your homework, and you know that habits is that's my trigger word. As soon as I hear that, I'm like, ooh, tell me more. So, right. I love the idea. So I had a business that was, we had our own corporate locations, and then we franchised doorstep delivery back in the day, which has allowed me to be able to do this type of thing now, because we were able to fortunately build it up, exit. So I'm very familiar with how, if you don't have the right expectations, the right habits built before you go into it, whether you're a franchisee or starting your own business as an entrepreneur, that you eventually want to have franchisees, underneath you, like I did, you like that. To me, it's such a no-brainer. Like there needs to be some sort of educational process before, to understand this is what you're getting into. These are the types of things you're going to be facing. This is how you're going to handle them, right? But yet, how many people actually do that go in to do these things? No, they go, oh, I have a good idea, I'm going to do this, or yeah, this looks good. And they do very little research. And then when they start getting hit with the inevitable, slaps, bitch slaps, whatever you want to call them, that are going to happen, and the walls they're going to run into, they're like, whoa, wait, what's this? Like, and then, a lot of franchisees, I don't know your experience, but they tend to blame the franchisor. And in all fairness, a lot of times the franchisor is at fault. But in our case, there was a combination of, sometimes we're like, you're right, we didn't think about that. That's our fault. We need to help you guys. And there's other times where we're like, what? We can't hold your hand every step of the way. We're giving you the system. You got to go implement it. We can't we can't drive, take a plane over and change your light bulb, right? Like, so having those habits and understanding beforehand is such a huge key component. I totally agree with that. And you help people with that.
Absolutely. And my services are free. I get paid by the brands. It's not like real estate where you pay a commission for using my services. I'm truly a free resource. And to your exact point, franchising is such a safe space. When you go into it with your eyes open and you're using someone like myself, the reason being, there is a franchise disclosure document, not to bore everybody to death with the legalese, but franchising is regulated by the federal government. There is a franchise disclosure document. There's 23 items in there that are required to be disclosed. And one of them is an earnings claim. And you don't necessarily have to claim anything in that spot, but the brands that do, like 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning, last I checked, the top 25% of their franchisees are doing $9 million in sales on a $150,000 investment. So if you're going to screw it up, it's not necessarily their fault. They have a long proven history with 300 territories open, but there are people, like a bad marriage, Will. Look, you and I talk about health, wealth, and relationships, okay? I screwed up my first marriage. I screwed up business partnerships. Well, I screwed up business partnerships because I invited the wrong people into the partnership for sure. But the reality is, if you are matched with the right franchise for you, proven to whatever degree you define proven. I had a guy tell me, well, proven to me is I want like 500 locations out there. And I was like, look, dude, when I got involved in Wingstop, it was a shit show in the beginning when I joined him. I mean, it was like, there was only like 60 franchisees. Chicken wing prices were out of control, but I saw something in the ownership group and I shared their vision. And guess what? I eventually became president of the Franchise Advisory Council for Wingstop. We had a say. Everything you talk about points to franchising to me because of collaboration. All that collaboration, all those best practices are shared within a franchise system. But anyway, those are just some tidbits.
Yeah, I love that. So, tell us about let's go into some of the, some interesting stories of, some franchisees you've worked with or yourself that some fun tidbits of, an example of how not to do it, and maybe, an example of how to do it, and kind of the comparison, and showing us how one failed and one succeeded. Or maybe it's
let me give you one of my favorite stories. A buddy of mine who I met after he got into a franchise, one of the funniest stories, because people always ask me, like, Will, if you and I are working together, and you say to me, Lance, how did you select this waste management brand, this commercial cleaning brand, this home healthcare brand? Like, why did you pick these for me? And I always tell people, your skills are transferable. The question is to what? So I go through with everybody, what is their what? And their what is defined as, what is your investment level? Like, I just had a guy send me an IG message before I went on here. He said, hey, I saw one of your posts. I have $25,000. I could get a loan. I said, let's talk. Here's my scheduling link. I can absolutely help you. So a buddy of mine who I'm friends with now, funniest story ever. He worked with a consultant like me who's long retired. Tells him that he should own Great Clips hair salons. And my buddy told me this story. He laughed, and then he got mad at the guy. And he got mad because my friend doesn't have hair, so he can't even be a customer. And guess what, Will? No surprise, he doesn't know how to cut hair. It was never a passion. So why the heck should he own Great Clips hair salons? So needless to say, today they have 19 Great Clips hair salons because it's settled in. It's settled in, just like people that say they're never going to get married and then realize they have to live with that person forever. Well, he realized that Great Clips fit. He can get an SBA loan for $200,000. It fit his lifestyle. Long story short, he does incredibly well. You'd be shocked how much money he makes with his Great Clips. So there's a success story that's interesting. Okay, on the failure side, I had a guy I worked with personally, super nice guy, had a small home services brand. So, but this gentleman sold his home services brand, and he came to me for a franchise, young guy, and I showed him all kinds of home service brands that were absolutely proven. Well, I tried to open up people's minds by showing them the possibilities. It's kind of like when my dad didn't eat broccoli, and my wife said, hey, try this. And he's like, you know what, this isn't so bad. 30 years I'm saying I didn't like broccoli. Well, you got to try it, right? So I feed people all different brands. And I fed him a sales brand because he said his wife was good at sales. So what do you think happened? He picked the sales brand. And he said, you really think I can do this? And I said, no, I don't think you can do this. You are not a sales guy. You have to be comfortable with sales. You don't have that skill that you can transfer to this franchise. He said, but my wife does. So what do you think happened? They got into the franchise, calls me 6 months later. He goes, I don't think I can do this. So, dude, you already did it. You're already pregnant. You can't undo this deal here. And that was a failure. He found a cousin that was good at sales that he gave the business to because his wife wasn't involved. So it's what I call, Will, a mismatch. There are people that get into a business or get into a marriage. They have these delusions of grandeur that they can do certain things, and in some cases they cannot. So I help guide people. In most cases, I'm very successful. I had a gentleman just get his second franchise from me recently. He came back for more.
Okay, so let's talk about this mismatch. So, like, let's dive in a little bit to how to help people to understand, on a broader scale, not just if they happen to be in the franchise world, but just in general, they're an entrepreneur and they want to choose what they're going into. What would be your recommendation to have those red alerts of this is a mismatch so that they can go, maybe this isn't the best fit versus let me go over this direction, which is a better fit?
Yeah. Any great brand, when I present brands to people, I kind of gauge their interests in the first place. And I push them, just like a personal trainer would. I push them. I'm a business trainer. I push them to the things that I think are best for them, even though they don't taste good like broccoli. So what ends up happening is I hope they'll see the light, but the magic really begins when I introduce them to the brand. And once they're talking to the brand, they start to understand the day in the life. Do you see yourself doing this, whatever it is, fill in the blank? At Great Clips, you're not cutting hair. nobody knows how to cut hair, but you're learning the business of the business. Ray Kroc from McDonald's used to say, franchising is about working on the business, not necessarily in the business. You're not buying yourself a job. You're hiring a team. So what happens for me is I get people to understand what the day in the life is, whether this fits their lifestyle. I have great restoration brands. Well, people don't want to get called in the middle of the night if a water heater explodes, or commercial businesses, a board up type business and handyman work. Business gets a brick thrown through the window due to a demonstration, not to get political, whatever. So there are certain things that don't fit people's lifestyles. Now, validation is an incredible part of franchising. And that's the stage where you have an opportunity to talk to existing franchisees. And when you talk to existing franchisees, they'll be able to answer. They're not bound by the disclosure document, Will, so they can tell you whatever they want to tell you about their experiences. Now, as you know, as a business person, the ramp-up period from the time you invest in something to the time you break even is absolutely crucial. You don't want to be bleeding or hemorrhaging money for the rest of your life. And those are crucial elements as well. But really, it's the day-to-day where this gentleman in the story that I gave you of technically a failure, although he was able to give the business to someone else and get his money out, you have to like what you're doing. And most of us change our minds throughout our lifetime. Not everybody's like my brother that from 7 years old wants to be an animal doctor, a veterinarian, and guess what he does today? He's an animal doctor. And that's all he's doing.
Yeah. So I'm hearing, it's interesting. I want to kind of dive into this a little bit more because
Sure.
I'm hearing from you, that I'm in agreement with this part, which is you got to like what you do. It's super important. And we talked at the beginning of the show about how that's what helps you to push through those tough times when you're actually enjoying it, like it. But then I'm also hearing from you about you don't know until you get into it, like the Great Clips example. He's like, I have no interest in cutting hair and I don't have hair, but yet now he's got 19. So I guess I'm trying to figure out how that reconciles. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, it is crazy, but I always say the magic happens when people start talking to brands. A lot of times I'll have a presentation call, as I call it, and I present 4 or 5 brands to people based on their what and their criteria, from investment level, a thorough interview. I have a free assessment on my website. I really get to know people. And, it's funny, if anybody ever watched an episode of The Bachelor, you want people, the people on the show, they use the word vulnerable all the time. When people get vulnerable with me and tell me their wishes and dreams and life disappointments and what they want to do with the rest of their lives, this business could be that stepping stone. And so I get deep in understanding people. But when you are getting introduced to brands, whether you initially like the idea or not, who likes going into a personal trainer at the gym? It's intimidating, right? It's going to hurt. I'm going to be sore. They're going to push me harder than I wanted to be pushed outside my comfort zone. It's the same thing when you're working with me. At some point, people are very uncomfortable, Will. They don't believe for a period of time that they can actually do what I tell them that they can do. Why would I do Great Clips hair salons? Why would I do all dry restoration? That sounds boring, okay?
Right.
So what I do, the real answer to your question, which I'm getting to, is benefits. What are those benefits to you? Based on your lifestyle, based on your investment, what could happen to you down the road as a result of this? Generational wealth is what can happen to you. And I point people back to the franchise disclosure document. This is the money that an average franchisee is making. This is what could happen for you as well. These are proven businesses. Please do not go and start a business on your own and be on an island with no support unless you're paying for it. So hopefully that clears it up.
Yeah, it does. No, thank you. That's a great point. So as we start to get to the end of the show, I like to always ask, because obviously you're successful entrepreneur, businessman yourself, you're helping other people to do the same. What would you say is your top habit that you yourself have developed? Maybe at one point it was the opposite. It was the failure side of it. And now it's the success habit that has helped you, that you would recommend to other people out there to help them do the same thing that you are.
Yeah, I have quite a few things that I've done religiously for a while. Look, I'm a hard charger. A buddy of mine just told me on the phone the other day, we're so similar. We're all gas and no brake. It's exactly what he said. And that could be bad sometimes. I jumped into partnerships in the past, and maybe I was too trusting. And guess what, Will? I didn't have attorneys that were that good. I trusted the wrong professionals as well, and I got screwed as a result and should have made even more money. And I remember saying to one of my attorneys, why do we have to get in this lawsuit? And he goes, because you're doing really well, and people fight because there's money. And I was like, well, that sucks. I guess I need a better agreement next time. So the reality is there's always money to be made. And I've been a serial entrepreneur. But habit-wise, let me tell you, I'm 56 now. I'm in the gym 6 days a week. I'm there early. I want to make sure that my body, my brain, everything is as clear and fit. Health and wealth go hand in hand. It's very rare you see an out of shape. I mean, you look around and, Elon Musk is a little pudgy. Sorry, Elon. I mean, I know, I'm sure he'll get in rock solid shape again. But there's a lot of great entrepreneurs out there that we all know publicly, and they're all fit, right? Most of them are pretty darn fit. Mm-hmm. So as far as my habits, though, innovation has always been a habit of mine, to innovate and do something new virtually every day. How am I going to reinvent the wheel? I had a conversation with a new Google AdWords guy yesterday. Conversation with another YouTube specialist, even though my guys do a good job with my new YouTube channel we're just launching. So I'm always trying to innovate and get better. I hate standing still. How am I going to improve? The mantra of continuous improvement has been ingrained in me. If you're not growing, you're dying. So those are just some insights into me. Doing what I do as a franchise broker, I train new franchise consultants for the largest franchise development group in the country, give them all my secrets. I speak at events on business and entrepreneurship. Because as I said at the beginning of the show, there's only so many pillars of investing. You can throw your money into crypto and stocks or real estate, but a foundation of America, of course, the foundation of America is small business. And that's what I just truly love to help people with every day, and I do it for free.
I love that. So somebody just asked the question, and I want to make sure we address this, which is kind of what we were just talking about. Strong with Sam, like, how do you help people figure out what job they would like what characteristics or habits or things are you matching a person to a job? So kind of just talking about what we were talking about, like the way I would answer this, and tell me if you agree or disagree, is I would say start with, you got to become aware first of how you tick. And a lot of people, ironically, they think they know, but you don't. I mean, it's as simple to me as I always tell people, just literally start a list of your strengths, your weaknesses, because I think it's important to know both sides, and your passions, and just things you naturally like to do. And then when you have that in writing, and part of the system I help people with is making sure that they're reviewing that at least once a week in the beginning, if not more, and just kind of, and then as you're starting to think about, like, what would I want to do? Now there's this Chat GPT and all this stuff that's happening, yes, that's making all this easier. I mean, try plugging in your list of strengths to Chat GPT and saying, what job would I be fit for? And your strengths and then maybe your weaknesses, and say, what job should I avoid because of these weaknesses? Just play around with the algorithm and just see what you get. And something might spark. You might go, wow, I didn't know this type of job existed, right? And same with franchising. It's like, wow, like, you might, if you're going to the franchise, like, ask what franchise would be best for me based on these things. That's how I would start it, just to kind of gamify it, trick the system into sort of working for you, using technology, reducing the friction versus racking your brain on, like, what should I do? What's your feedback on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. We ChatGPT, Google, looking around and knowing the possibilities. Like I said earlier with Walt Disney, it's that dream sequence. What are the possibilities? Well, in order to determine the best possibility for you or the best opportunity, you have to know what's out there. And as all of my smart friends have taught me over the years that are smarter than me, you have to resource up. There are resources out there besides YouTube and Google and ChatGPT. You want some advice? Reach out to me. We'll have a call. It doesn't matter if it's a job or a franchise. I truly am happy to help you. I talked to a much younger fraternity brother, 22 years old, just yesterday, about what he should do for a living. He wanted guidance. So it's really just reaching out to understand what the possibilities are first. Will, you said it perfectly. It's always, whether you're doing a business or a job, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you like doing at this point? Mm-hmm. And guess what? What do you not like doing? And why? Maybe it's a skill you should sharpen up. My friends that hate doing certain things at the gym, I hate doing squats. I hate doing that. Maybe you don't know proper form. So how about we talk about strengthening your weaknesses so you can improve on these things? That's another thing. You asked about habits. Every day I'm trying to get better at things that I'm not great at, whatever that is.
Right. I love it. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on. This was really great. I mean, the franchise world is fascinating to me. I always like talking to people that are deep in there. You gave some really invaluable, insightful tips to help people. I hope everybody was paying attention.
Modeling success. That's franchising, Will. Modeling success.
That's it, man. That's it. Well, I'd love to be on your show. Like I said, I've been down that franchise route, so I got plenty of fun stories to share as well. Be in touch. And
you're getting on my show for sure. That would be awesome.
Perfect. We'll set that up. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Go gamify your life. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.
That's it for the Gamify Your Habits podcast with Will Moore. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to visit moremomentum.com to learn how you can gamify your life.